And so I've been able to come as an outsider to Utah and see what is Utah doing that's special. I even joke that when I was reading all the accolades, the awards Utah was winning back in early mid-2000s all the way through the 20-teens, I know that data can be faked, right? We know that you can puff up the stats the way you want to. But Utah kept winning and kept winning. And so I've been able to come here and meet the leaders of the state, meet very good innovators all over the state, and represent some of them in their international business dealings. And it's been extremely rewarding to be able to dive in and see what people are building, how they're building it with the ethics that I think are often quite unique as we have them here in Utah. So it's been very fun to be here. We're really proud to be sponsoring this panel and to be here at the conference today. I'm going to turn it over to Tyler Jennings because he's really the genius of the next act. Thank you.
I'll go from my left to right. Luis Benavides is the CEO and founder of NeighborBright. I'll let him introduce what it is, but it's super cool. Prior to what he's building now, he was at Coinbase and Google. You wouldn't know this, but he's actually 20 years at Google. He could pass for a sandbox student. I'm an adjunct at UVU. He has the look of a 23-year-old, but he's 40 plus. So give Luis a round of applause. Dan is an international man of mystery. Dan Caffey, CEO of Vose. You guys are at 80-ish people right now. What number startup is this for you?
Depends how many you count. Probably 8, 9.
Okay. So serial entrepreneur. Interesting fact, he's been to the gates of hell in Turkmenistan. So if you want to talk about the gates of hell, he's your guy. Doug Barnett, CEO of Remy. I have interviewed him before. I've had him speak to the students at UVU before. Doug, the random fact is I think Doug has a very sexy brain. It is awkward for me to say out loud, but I love the way what Doug is going to have to say to you, I think is just world class. Doug is a special entrepreneur. Last but certainly not least is Remy. Doug's building a business called Remy. He's at 160 employees. Remy is about to raise another monster round from the Bay Area, but they are building the future of roofing. So if you think of Uber, they are doing that for roofing. So you don't have to call a contractor anymore. You just call Remy and they take care of everything. Last but certainly not least, Lance Heydrich. He is on a mission to get rid of pineapple on pizza. So
I know this is polarizing. Oh, what?
And he's building a business called Halda, the AI version of a business he's built before, in a way. So I'll kind of had you, Lance will start here, but could you maybe give everyone a little context for what you're building, and we'll go down the line. What's the market that you're in? How are you using AI to disrupt what's been the traditional business?
Yeah. First of all, how cool is it that we can all just be here in this room at this moment in time when AI is proliferating and we have a chance to be a part of it all, both exciting and sometimes scary. Lance Heydrich, CEO of Halda, we're building agentic AI solutions to help universities to be able to personalize the student journey. Student journey in higher education is a very complex process, is one of the most complex buying journeys that exist that I know of. And we're helping level the playing field for students who don't have access to resources to be able to get everything they need in a personalized way as they engage with universities.
Thanks for having me. My name is Doug Barnett at Remy. And as all of you expected today on this AI Summit, roofing company CEO is here. But it is interesting, as you begin to use new technology like AI, you can begin to make the consumer experience better in ways that are not immediately visible to someone that is not working in the technology every day. And so as an example of this, one of the things we do at Remy is we're able to quote, we're completing about 500 projects a week at this point. So not huge, but we're still a fairly large, what you would call a contractor. And every single one of those jobs is quoted sight unseen. We never visit the job site, and we guarantee the price that we give to consumers. So if we rip off the shingles from a roof, we find dry rot in the sheathing underneath, we cover the cost. That's how confident we are that this new technology gives us an advantage to quote correctly without ever visiting a job site. So adds speed, simplicity, and surety to consumers when you're quoting a job like roofing.
I'm Dan Caffey with Vose. And Vose, we have a revenue optimization platform for industrial companies. So again, other sectors that you don't traditionally associate with cutting edge AI technology. But the truth is the companies and the industries we work with are the backbone of the economy. They're some of the largest sectors in the global economy. And the AI is pervasive and they need this technology and they can benefit from it at least as much as the companies that you traditionally associate with being on the cutting edge. So we help these large companies that do B2B sales to optimize their revenue and help integrate all of the data, collect more information from the field, and help them sell the right product to the right customers at the right time and help add efficiency to the process. And what we found is that, there's this sense sometimes that a lot of traditional companies and traditional industries don't care about technology. And what we found a lot of times is that a lot of the technology sector just doesn't really care about those industries. It's the other way around. They actually do care about technology and they tend to embrace it if it's presented in a way that's helpful for them and if you're thoughtful about that. So that's what we do at Vose. And we have the best customers in the world. And so it's been a great journey so far.
Hello, everyone. I'm Luis Benavides with NeighborBright. We built an AI landscape designer, and we thought about it as our mission is to help everyone become a designer, and that goes for homeowners and landscapers. We worked with a lot of homeowners when they were thinking about their projects. They collect their Pinterest boards and spend months and months thinking about what they want to do, but they were never able to put it together. Their projects kind of like fell off. They didn't know what to do. So once I saw the opportunity, having worked at Google, again, like landscaping, not a traditional high-tech industry, we saw the big opportunity of unlock that the generative AI would have in design, especially like when we were talking about hallucinations. That's all about design is all about hallucinations. So we were like, let's double down on that and kind of reimagine what your space can be. And we love the fact that we're building technology to help people go out and touch grass. So it's about building their spaces and being happy about it.
Yeah. So, let's start with Luis on this one. Luis, first, how long have you been in Utah? And give us a little bit of the story of your grant. And, I thought that was really funny when we were talking about this.
Yeah, it's been almost 4 years. And it was at the very beginning. So I left Google. Well, I left Coinbase. And we're talking about regulation. And anyways, I left Coinbase I wanted to do something in the home improvement space because I thought it was a huge $500 billion in the space with very little technology going into. But yeah, so I think within the first 6 months, I was invited to a pitch competition and there was a pitch competition, and I participated, and I got the grant from the GUIO. So it was great. Like all of my friends were like, "Oh, you just went to Utah, and now you're like all linked into the tech community, and now getting grants and so on." So it was an amazing to see how Utah is so welcoming to new startups, and many of my friends, like ex-Googlers, are building startups here. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah, thank you. And then maybe let's go a step further. So for context for what he's doing, the next time you are looking at your front lawn and you want to redesign, or you just bought a new home and you're like, what does this need to look like? You can go to his app, take a picture, and they will show you options for your climate with the local nurseries in some cases. Can you talk a little more about how, I'll call somebody who's just used to cutting grass can now become like a full-on landscape designer?
Yeah, so the shout out to, so there's I'm working with local companies, which is also amazing. So Utah Wildflower Company is one of the highly rated landscaping companies in the area, and they were having issues trying to help the customers visualize what a landscape project would be. And just all this thing about streetscaping, they're very into the native plants and saving water, and people could not imagine how their yard could look beautiful without grass and without a big lawn and so on. So they're using our app to show them on the spot when they do the first visit. And they can get people to just like, oh, I love this, let's do it. So the conversation for them changed from, I don't know if I want to do this project, to like, oh, let's move this tree over here and let's do it. And then in addition to that, talking about the cheese with the holes, one of the things with AI is like they can generate you can generate a very beautiful design, but you need to find the plants, especially with plants that will survive in the region, need to be climate conscious and so on. So we just did a partnership with Progressive Plants, one of the biggest nurseries here in Utah, where all of their inventory of the plants they grow are in our app, so that when we recommend the plants for a project, they're going to be linked to a local grower that has curated those plants and that know that they will survive in the region.
Yeah, I just thought that was really relevant for everybody. Everybody can go use Luis's app today if they wanted, right? I think that's
I'd
awesome.
love to. It's free, by the way. The first few attempts.
Doug, you're at 160 employees. We were talking about AI. I'd be curious, like, are you slowing down your hiring because of AI? Talked about how you've said to me that AI is misunderstood. Will you kind of riff on this for a minute for me?
Yeah. I can confidently say, with everybody sitting on this stage and all the other entrepreneurs that I'm connected to, that AI is not slowing down our hiring at all. In fact, I can't hire enough good engineers, designers, product people. And I do think, generally speaking, when I talk to people that are building AI tools versus people that are observing AI tools being built, there is a very large disconnect. This is not easy technology to build. It's actually very, very difficult to get an AI agent to work correctly. It takes a lot of work. And the reason is, all of this, well, not all, but most of the way that we talk about AI today is with LLMs, that is all probabilistic. And code is usually deterministic. It's like A plus B equals C. And that is not the way LLMs operate. And so the way that I think the framework that I've heard that I think really speaks to the way AI works very well today was from a guy named Andre Karpathy, who built most of the technology that's in a Tesla and their FSD program. He was speaking at AI Startup School this year, and he described AI as Iron Man suits. And that is primarily how our agents work today. They supplement and augment the strength, speed, and ability of our employees and our contractors and our customers to do more. And eventually, over time, those Iron Man suits can turn into robots. But he gives this anecdote in this speech that the first time he rode in a Waymo was 2014. And he rode in it, and it was basically flawless. And he was like, oh, autonomous driving is imminent. Well, here we are 12 years later, and we're still not there. And his opinion here is this is going to take two decades to really, really play itself out. And so from my perspective as an entrepreneur, as a job creator, the opposite of what you would think is happening is happening. It's allowing us to do more, to hire better people, more people. And as we drive cost out of our business, it allows us to be more ambitious. And AI has done that. And as we drive cost out of our business, it also enables us to price lower to consumers. And, we've completed tens of thousands of roofing projects now over the last 2 years. I have yet to meet a single one of those customers that wanted to buy our product. This is non-discretionary replacements. And so what that means is when they save money on a roof, what are they going to do with those dollars? If we can price lower because our costs are lower, what is going to happen? they're going to spend the dollars elsewhere, or they're going to save those dollars across, multiple things. And maybe they're passionate about making ice cream, and they go open a small business ice cream shop with those dollars. And I believe in the spirit of the United States, and especially Utah, that this AI is going to drive cost out of business and is going to enable us to do way more and start new businesses and really drive the economy forward.
Thanks. Maybe let's go to Dan and Lance. Like, any comment on this idea of an Iron Man suit? I think I'd like to riff on this for a minute.
No, I love it. In fact, I watched the same interview with Andre Karpathy. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. He provides a lot of soberness to the conversation, where a lot of people are anxious that AI is going to take over every job here shortly. And unless we regulate everything to the nines, things are going to get really messy quickly. And I think his example of writing in what later became Waymo, that he brings some soberness to, this is going to take decades. And I feel the same way as we build with agents. We actually have agents babysitting agents, which is crazy, because agents, you give it guardrails and it will still go outside the line sometimes. And the other agent has to say, no, you can't do that based on the rules we've set, and has to go redo it. So it's coming, and it's getting better, and it's accelerating at a quick pace. It's just not there yet. And so it's fascinating. I think companies that are out there building with AI sometimes see everything looks like a nail to an AI hammer, when in reality, deterministic software could solve a large part of the problem. And so you have to be good at problem solving to say, we're so deep into the problem, is the best way to solve this problem really agentic AI, or is it simply laying down some code and letting that run its course? And we've found that as we leverage both of those things, that the system works better. And so just echoing Doug's comments, I think it's an interesting time. I want to absolve the myth that AI native companies are out there to take everyone's jobs immediately, and everyone's jobs are at risk, because I don't think in the near term that's the case. It's fun to think about in the next 10, 15, 20 years what that looks like. But in the short term, there's still a lot of decisions to be made, and it's not as easy as it may seem from the outset.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I definitely think of those as like an Iron Man suit for our customers. In the industries that we work in, heavy equipment is one of the large ones, right? So these are folks selling, a $3 million earth mover or, tractor trailers. Nobody's going to be buying that stuff over Zoom. To be honest, it's a very relationship-based sales process. They're pretty large purchases and large contracts. The relationship matters a lot. So our goal is not to replace the professionals that are out there making these sales. It's to simply enhance their ability to make them more efficiently, more effectively. And again, what other products and what other lines do they also need to sell to help meet their customers' needs? The goal has never been to replace those people and to remove those jobs. And in fact, our customers end up hiring more once they're using this product, because when they run the numbers on how efficient each hire is, as those hires get more and more efficient, they can afford to hire more people. And at some point, who knows? But I think for the foreseeable future, there will always be things that are going to be done with a real human to human relationship that's just part of human nature. And so I think if we understand the role of AI, it can have it can add an incredible amount of value, but it doesn't have to be viewed in the context of replacement.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe let's start with Luis on this one. I would say out of the groups here, you have the least amount of employees yet. So you've been able to leverage AI, and you've been a native AI company, if you want to say it that way. As you think about how you're building out your team, or how you think about your burn or fundraising, how is your ability to do more with less made you be more nimble? Or what would you say to, I'm looking at a couple of my students here, right here, Abby and Stevie, what's up? They're in Sandbox right now. It's the two of them. How do you think about what you can do now with more support from AI, and where does it start and where does it stop in terms of what its capability is?
Yeah, I think an example, we're a very small team. If I think about the number of people we would have needed to do the same thing when I was at Google, for example, I would say it's almost an order of magnitude. So we had one engineer build the whole mobile app, and it like that would be a team of like 6-7 engineers. And then the example is if I'm not a developer, I kind of get around with code. I'm an engineer, but a telecommunications engineer. And right now I'm able to, if I understand a problem that our app has, like some kind of paper cut thing that is annoying users, and I can describe it well, I can give it to Copilot and I can get the code done. And then I became another engineer in the team. And then the customer support people can maybe think about it. And of course the code goes to review and the engineers go and check it, that is doing the right thing, but it saved a ton of time. And maybe there were things, when we think about the replacement, these were things that were actually not done. Like these paper cuts, they just stay there forever. Like this UI, UX, little things that annoy people, and you're like, oh, but it's not the most important thing to put an engineer right now on. Now I can do it. So it's like it was not getting done before, but it's also multiplying the giving superpowers to people. We think about the same, like I'm not a designer, but I became the designer of the company. And it's just because I can go back and forth with AI and kind of like have it critique whatever ideas I come up with, and we end up with something reasonable. And when I need a kind of like a real person to join, I hire a designer for a couple of months and so.
Thanks. And maybe Lance, let's go with you on this one. You're in higher ed. You like deal with universities. Like when you think about regulatory policy from state to state, what's going on in Florida is different than what's going on in Tennessee, and they have different rules. Like how is the world of AI and the regulatory environment impacting what your sales team or what the teams who want to implement Halda have to deal with?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's sort of two parts to it. First, the regulation is actually, it's protective for us in a way, because we can go to university administrators and there are some rules and regulations in place where they can trust our product because we're following those regulations. One thing I get concerned about is we work with over 300 universities across the country and a few internationally. And as you look across the board at the regulations that are coming down, it becomes increasingly difficult for a business operator to have to operate on 50 different regulations. New York might be different than Utah, which might be different than Florida, and it makes it very difficult to enter into those areas and be able to operate knowing that the business changes every time we're engaging with universities from a specific region. So it's tricky because you need regulation. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt said, like regulation is a must. It's threading the needle to have enough regulation to be able to put guardrails in place for AI, but not so much that it is prohibitive to build and innovate in the space. Anyone want to add here?
So I think the next part I'm curious for everyone who has kids. For those of you, you are all using AI every day in your job. You see what it's capable of, what it's not capable of. We heard some thoughts on what it can and can't do, more Iron Man suitish. If you were speaking to your teenager and you're like, hey, this is how you should be thinking about AI. This is how you should be thinking about a career. These are the skills that are going to matter in the next, 15 years. What sort of advice are you giving your kids? Because I know quite a few of you actually do have these teenagers. So give me some thoughts on like, what should someone who's thinking about the impacts of AI on a career, what would you suggest they know and think about?
I read a study recently, and it was looking at this split between the way that people over the age of, I think, 23 and under the age of 23, they're all using AI and leveraging LLMs. It's being used pretty broadly, but the way that it's being used by folks who are closer to being sort of AI native, where they've grown up with it over the past few years, it's dramatically different. And I see this. I have 3 daughters who are between 11 and 16, and it's fascinating the way that their brains approach it and how the instincts that they have of how they're going to use it. It's almost and I've worked with AI for 15 years, and I'll watch my 11-year-old interact, and I'm like, that didn't even occur to me, but it's just become so ingrained. And I see this with some of our younger employees who have a lot less experience in the workplace. They have a lot less experience working in these industries, but the facility they have, the ease that they have as far as interacting with this and the way that they're interfacing with it is, I mean, I'm just constantly impressed and blown away by it. And so, you know, I recognize, and I think we all do, that there are some real downsides like there are to any technology, but the upsides are so incredible. I just encourage that. I encourage it at every turn. Just take full advantage, because what I see the result of it with my younger employees, just how much faster and how much easier it is for them to come up with solutions.
Yeah, I have 6 kids. I just had a recent example of this. My oldest son, our projector bulb went out, and he had a bunch of friends coming over, wanted to watch a movie at our house. I was on a business trip, so wasn't able to help him. And we had the extra bulb, and I just said, you're gonna have to figure it out, assuming he would, get on YouTube or read the instruction manual. And he was able to fix it. I said, how did you do that so quickly? And he said, I used ChatGPT, showed it a video. ChatGPT was able to help me through the video, know exactly what I was looking at, and I was able to connect all the parts and get it working. And the beauty behind that is it's one thing to use AI to, make your email sound a little better. It's quite another to solve really complex problems. And as I look out across these kids who are becoming AI native, just they're sort of born with it. They know how to use it. Once they get to the age where they're employable, well, now me as an employer, that is a super valuable asset to have on my team. Someone that knows how to come in, leverage AI to solve problems, even complex problems, and be able to move the business forward. So I think there is a tremendous opportunity for the younger generation and for higher education, for all my higher education people in here. There is a tremendous opportunity right now for AI to create not only AI natives, but create upward mobility where it didn't exist before, right? My personal history is I'm a first generation college student, grew up in a single parent household. My father was incarcerated, no child support coming in. So there was no access from my end. When I was trying to find a college that worked for me, it was super difficult. And now with AI, we're able to level the playing field and give access to people like me who didn't have the initial wherewithal or ability to find different opportunities within a university system. So it's just, I look out across, I'm super optimistic, super bullish on AI, and especially as this younger generation is getting older and growing up with it.
To be honest, my experience with our younger employees is the opposite. They struggle. Experience is valuable in learning, especially like in engineering, which is what I would say is probably the furthest along in real use case in AI. They get stuck. And a lot of the times what causes them to get stuck is they probably did not study the whys or the principles behind understanding a topic. And so what I have been educating my kids on, my son he'll be college aged this summer, is you have to understand why. Because what will happen is an AI will hallucinate, and they are getting better and better, but they still hallucinate a lot, and they'll make up stuff. And when they're doing that in a business context and you don't correct them, they get way off track very quickly. And so an experienced hand knowing how to correct the AI and get it to do what you want it to do, it takes some experience. And our younger employees, they get stuck sometimes. And so I would encourage you to help them understand the why principles behind the concepts that they're learning. And if they will do that, AI is a massive superpower. But if they don't understand the why underneath of it, they don't know how to correct it. And they don't really get to leverage the huge super intelligence that it has.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I was probably 12, I was tremendously curious and I wanted to be a programmer. I wanted to write some code that would do what I wanted. And I think it took me about a year pretending like I had this big thick book about programming that I didn't understand. I was just pretending to read it and thinking I would understand it. And a year, like after a year of like looking at this, I kind of like started understanding a little bit and wrote the first piece of code that worked. And, I remember like having worked through the night, maybe 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And then the code worked and I was just the happiest person. And that, I think every programmer has had that moment, that moment when things click. I'm thinking about my son, he's 9. And the fact that, he was like, I blocked his Roblox access, but I would let him use Roblox Studio just to do, play with the 3D. And then one day I come and there are like 200 lines of code on on Roblox, and he would show me how he teleported from this place to the other place when he touched this block, and then he showed me and explained each line of code like ChatGPT. So it was like the ability to learn and that to have that aha moments so much earlier, I think is going to be transformative. Like it's going to give a lot of more people access. You don't have to have that grit behind, and you can just kind of have that first, experience. That's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully what you're hearing from this group kind of echoes everything you've heard throughout the day. I really love the premise that Utah wants to be human-centered. And another way of saying that is like, we all have access to an Iron Man suit. And if we leverage the Iron Man suit, if we create an environment where we can all put on that Iron Man, capabilities, that's where AI can take us. And I think that's very much from like a Utah direction, how we want to go. Can we give them one more round of applause to everybody here? Thank you.